In this video, we will cover placing keynotes and creating note blocks. There are many different workflows for how keynotes and note blocks can be used. We will take a look at how the functionality works in Revit. To begin, on the Annotate ribbon, in the Tag panel, expand the Keynote Split button. You can place element keynotes, material keynotes, and user keynotes. Element keynotes will reference the keynote parameter for the element. Material keynotes will reference the keynote parameter from the material. User keynotes allow you to manually select a keynote from the keynote table when a user keynote is placed. I'll select Keynoting Settings. In the Keynoting Settings dialog, you can select the keynote table. For this example, we'll use one of the default Revit keynote tables. But you can create a keynote table that meets the needs of your project and then select it here in this dialog. You can also control the numbering method. This can be set to by keynote or by sheet. When numbering by sheet, the keynotes will be numbered based on the order that they are created on a sheet. When numbering by keynote, the keynote numbers will simply reference the keynote. I'll click OK to close this dialog and then zoom into the electrical room. I'll select the transformer and then click Edit Type. This transformer has a keynote specified. You can click in the Keynote field and then click the More button to open the Keynotes dialog. Here you can see the keynote that has been selected, and you can select a different keynote as needed. Once again, the keynote tables can be customized to meet the needs of your project, and you can basically enter in whatever information you need, just as long as it follows the correct formatting. I'll click OK to close each dialog and then deselect the transformer. Back on the Annotate ribbon, I'll activate the Element Keynote tool. You can place keynotes very similar to how you place tags. I'll click to place a keynote on the transformer. When I do, you can see that it's referencing the keynote from the keynote type parameter. I'll click Modify to end the command and then deselect the element keynote. Next, I'll activate the User Keynote tool. I'll place a user keynote on a light fixture. When I place the Keynotes dialog opens, and now I can manually select a keynote. When I click OK, the keynote is specified. I'll click Modify to end the command. With the keynote selected, you can see that there are parameters in the Properties palette. You can adjust the leader just like you can adjust a tag. You can also update the key value after it has been placed. I'll deselect the keynote. After you place keynotes, you'll likely want to create a keynote legend. On the View ribbon, in the Create panel, expand Legends and then click Keynote Legend. I'll use the default name and click OK. And then, with key value and keynote text added to the list of scheduled fields, click OK. This creates a keynote legend, and you can see the key value and the keynote text for the two keynotes that we added. You can customize the keynote legend as needed, such as adjusting the filtering, the sorting, grouping, formatting, and appearance. I'll switch back to the ground floor electrical plan, and then next to the transformer you can see a generic annotation. I've also placed a couple generic annotations next to a couple light fixtures. You can place generic annotations and then create a note block that references the generic annotations. On the View ribbon, In the Create panel, expand Schedules and then click Note Block. In the new Note Block dialog, you can select the generic annotation family that you want to create a note block for. In this case, my generic annotation is called Generic Annotation. I'll click OK. In the Note Block Properties dialog, I'll add the label and the note parameter and then click OK. When I do, you can see the label and note values that have been added to the generic annotation. As you can see, this is very similar to how the Keynote legend was. While keynotes and note blocks can have similar functionalities, there can be different use cases for each one. In this case, I'll click Edit next to Sorting Grouping and deselect Itemize Every Instance, and then sort by the label, and click OK. So as you can see, you can use keynotes and generic annotations with note blocks to create customized notes for your project.